Michael Gibbs, and I'm the founder and CEO of Go Cloud Careers. And we're here today to help answer any type of cloud computing career question you may have. Maybe desire to be a cloud architect, maybe desire to be a solution architect, maybe desire to be a cloud engineer, maybe desire to be a cloud Linux engineer, whatever the case may be. I want to help you get cloud hired, build your absolute best technology career so you can have a career you love, a career that takes good care of you and your family, a career that fills you, and something that you're going to love for the rest of your career. So you can have a great career, which is like a rocket ship as opposed to somebody that teeter totters. And that's why we're here. My name is Michael Gibbs, and I'm the CEO of Go Cloud Careers. And I've been working in tech now for more than 25 years. Been a long time, but I've loved every last minute of it. And for the last 2 decades and then some, I've been helping people get their first tech job or get promoted in tech, and I'm here completely free to help you build your best technology career. And I mean it, whether it's a cloud architect, a cloud engineer, a solution architect, an enterprise architect. We know how to help you get hired, and that's why we're here, to help you build your cloud architect career plan or your cloud engineer career plan or your solution architect career development plan. Whatever it takes for you to get cloud hired, we're here. You know what? We've been running a very, very special 30% off discount to celebrate our anniversary. And we've been teaching this forever, but about a year ago, we created the Cloud Architect Career Development Program, and so many people have been hired. It's beyond anything I ever could have dreamed about. And we were so excited. And the sale was going to end today, but so many people have asked me to extend it. We're going to extend it till the end of the weekend. So if you're looking to get your first cloud architect job, your first cloud engineer job, now is the time to sign up. The link is in the description below. 30% off right now. So I wanted to make sure you knew about that. Today at 12 p.m., we're going to have day 4 of the AWS Certified Solution Architect Associate course, a completely free AWS Certified Solution Architect training program. Again, it is this afternoon. Many of you have been with us all week, and if you're not, come join us at noon, and you can watch the previous replays of the week. So please, let's talk about that. Now, I am beyond excited to really announce something that has been so special to me, something that I've been working on for a long time, something that's always been a dream of mine. We are launching our Helping Our Heroes Get Hired program. And we have a program for U.S. military veterans and people that have been through the military that is going to get them incredible cloud architect and cloud engineer jobs as soon as they leave the military by taking our program. We will cover everything that's necessary in these programs for a military to civilian program. We'll talk about the leadership differences and how to do it. We'll address the psychosocial needs of changing jobs, changing lives, and the challenges we in the tactical community face. We will address the executive skills. We will talk about the leadership transformation changes. And of course, we will get very deep with our professional development, our career training. And everybody that does this program is going to have an amazing career. So we're super, super excited about that. While we're at it, we have a completely free AWS Certified Solution Architect Professional book, which I'd love you to download. My team will put there in the description below. And everything we're doing is really to help you build your best career. So this Helping Our Heroes, our military veterans get hired, is something that's passionate about. And guess what? We're so excited about it. We're going to offer 50% off of this program in order to help people build their best career and get started. So we're super excited about this. So please, the reason we do these question and answer sessions is to answer your career questions so you can get your questions answered so you know where to go. I know in the beginning of my career, here's what happened. I asked a certification provider how to build my career. They sold me into 6 certifications, but no employer actually cared. It was only when I spoke to career professionals that actually understood what hiring managers actually desired. And they told me what they wanted. I did that, and I got my first tech job. My first tech job was not at the bottom. It was as a senior network engineer. And within 6 months of my first tech job, I was the lead architect at the world's largest ISP in my team. So here's the thing. You can do it too. I've never had anybody have to start at the bottom, ever. My people are properly trained, properly educated professionals, and they all do well. So ask the questions that you need here so you don't have to start at the bottom, so you know exactly how to build your career. We can shave you years of mistakes and years of going back and forth if you just ask us where you want to go, and we'll guide you there. And that's why we do this. I want to make sure you have brilliant careers. So we're here completely free 30 times a week for that reason. And if you want to know more, guess what? Next Thursday, we have a How to Get Your First Cloud Architect Job webinar. And you know what? In that webinar, we'll tell you everything you need to do to get your first cloud architect job. So we're here for you. We're trying to help you in any way we can build your best careers. So the link for all these things are in the description below. So please check out the links in the description below. Ask your questions and let us help you get cloud hired. So if you just joined, please ask your questions. And if not, if you give me a hashtag cloud hired, because there's lots of people that focus on getting somebody certified and then they sit there forever with the certification and can't do anything. Our whole mission in life is to get our people cloud hired, and our people get cloud hired every day. So whether you're our people and you want to get cloud hired, we love that. And if you're not, we still want to guide you so you can still get hired or cloud promoted or build the career of your dreams. So if you give me a hashtag cloud hired in the chat box and start asking me questions, I want to help you build your best career. Could we please share some information about the SAACO3? So it's another basic, very basic, simple exam offered by Amazon. And here's really speaking what it is. These exams are the name of a service and how to configure that service. So whether it's an SAACO2, an SAACO1, or an SAACO3, they're so similar. There's really not much worth talking about. I mean, the certification providers will make it a big deal, but it's pretty much the same thing. There is a little bit more configuration to make sure that you know how to do it, but it is a very basic intro-level test. Name of the service, how to configure it, and you know what? This week, with the Certified Solution Architect Associate training we're doing, we're covering most of the changes that are in the SAACO3. So don't think of it as anything very different. A little bit of difference in the percentage and where they actually weight which things. But 3 of the 4 domains in the test stay the same, and one's only modified by a little bit. So it's not much of anything worth talking about. Here's the key. When it comes to understanding how to do the career, what's on these certification exams is 100% irrelevant because it's the name of the service and how to configure it. Now, that's great for a cloud admin that just names the services and how to configure it. But when we're dealing with cloud architects and cloud engineers, we're talking about professionals that need so much more than that. So what you really need is a lot more knowledge than this anyway. So if you prepare for the exam as follows, you take our course, which is completely free. Read our book, which is completely free. Now, here's how people should learn. When you read a book and your course and you see something you don't understand, pause that course, stop at that in the book and go look up that concept you don't understand. Then go back to the book or our course, do another 10 minutes. When you see something you don't understand, have the intellectual curiosity to look it up. If you do this, you know what's going to happen in the end? You'll smoke through these exams like they're nothing, and you'll see that they are really, really, really nothing. Now, if you're studying for an exam as the name of a service and how to configure it, it's going to be really, really hard to keep this stuff straight in your head. And I'll tell you, I wouldn't be able to do it that way. Now, if you actually learn what is the technology, like learning how to drive a car, and you learn what a virtual machine is, and a container, a firewall, and a VPN concentrator, and you learn block storage, object storage, file storage, guess what? You can pass this test in 2 days. It becomes simple and very basic for you. And not only that, you'll be able to pass the Azure test and the Google test with the same preparation. So it's basically the same exam. It's basically the same exam with some modifications. So the course we're teaching this week will get you there as long as you download the labs too. So when we're doing our AWS course this week, there's the course, but there's also a lab module that you download. And in the verbal course, we're teaching more of the technology that more of an architect would need. And in the lab portion, we're doing much more hands-on that would be more appropriate for the cloud admin. Now, the cloud engineer is also going to get real hands-on. And we love cloud engineers. And the reason we love cloud engineers so much is an architect like me designs it and the cloud engineer builds it. So if we don't have each other, it's kind of like a marriage hand in hand. No, without the cloud engineer, without the cloud architect, doesn't have anything to build. And the cloud architect only knows how to design. So without the cloud engineer, nothing gets built. So keep that in the back of your mind. So for that reason, in our free AWS training, we also have a module that you can download. And guess what? We've got some training that's coming out very soon, and I'm going to talk about something super, super exciting for people that want to get hands-on and really want hands-on careers. We have a cloud engineer program that's launching on May 1st. And for the people that want to get hands-on, this is really exciting because, the training in the AWS Certified Solution Architect Associate and Professional is very basic. And it's enough for a cloud admin, but it's not enough for a cloud engineer. So for the cloud engineers, we got a program that's launching May 1st. And let me tell you, not only does it have the Azure Solution Architect expert training in there and the AWS Certified Solution Architect professional training in there, there is a massive amount of labs on both Azure and AWS. There is a Linux program in there because cloud engineers really need to know Linux. And we hired somebody from Red Hat, somebody that I trained many years ago, and they put a Linux program together that is beyond belief. In this program, people will be building Linux clouds. They'll be setting up Linux, administering Linux with the full skill of a Linux engineer. And when they're done that, they'll learn Terraform because that's what cloud engineers do. And when they're done that, the cloud engineers are going to learn Python, and the cloud engineers are going to learn Bash scripting and shell scripting, and it's an amazing program. So the information in these certifications is very, 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 very basic, but keep that in the back of your mind. So that's all you need to know about the certification exam. Go out there, do it, and then learn all that other cool stuff, and you'll get yourself cloud hired. And if you let me know what career you want, I'm even happy to build you a roadmap. Byron Ross, what is the salary expectation for a cloud architect versus a cloud engineer? Now, Byron, there's a fairly large difference in what can actually be paid. So, Byron, at the base level, figure a cloud engineer is about $100,000 to $120,000 job, and a cloud architect on average is about $160,000. Now, if someone is basically competent in both of those jobs, that's where you're at. Now, here's where things get different. When the cloud engineers develop leadership skills, executive presence, emotional intelligence, communication, they start getting paid a lot more. And, with that, we can get people up to 180 or so with the engineering side, but it's going to max out there. Now, on the architecture side, average is 160, but it's very common for good architects to earn $300,000 plus. So, we're dealing with an architecture role at the top end that pays far, far more. Now, it doesn't mean that the architect is more important. These are equally important careers. Here's the difference, Byron Ross, and I'll explain to you why the architects get paid so much more than the engineers. So here I am today as an architect, and my company says, Bank of America, they want to talk to you about a system design. Now, as an architect, I go meet with Bank of America, and I ask their executives some questions. And I know how to look that CEO in the eye, and CTO and Chief Investment Officer and Chief Information Officer, and we have lots of conversations, and I learn a lot about the business. Now, Byron Ross, just being able to speak to CEOs raises my salary dramatically because it's a special skill. And then, Byron, so as an architect, we have to design something to solve the customer's business problem, which means we need lots of executive communication, executive presence, etc. Then we got to go back to our team, Byron Ross, and lead a team of maybe 50 cloud engineers to actually help us design and build the darn thing, proof of concepts, etc. And then we got to write it up, present it, and sell it. So Byron, if you're dealing with a big company like an HSBC Bank or a Bank of America or a JP Morgan Chase, you could be selling an architecture that's hundreds of millions of dollars. So Byron, as the architect, you're like the sales rep. I mean, you're not the sales rep, but you're doing sales. So you're bringing more money into the company. And when you bring money into the company, they pay you more. Now, the cloud engineer is the most amazing, smart person in the world. And trust me, I love cloud engineers. Cloud engineers make my world. But they're busy building. So they're behind the desk coding. They're behind the desk configuring. They're doing all the official smart person things. They're making everything work. But here's the thing. They're behind the scenes. And I wish it wasn't the case, Byron. But the people that are front and centered always get paid more than the people that are behind the scenes. So that's why the salary differences are. But Byron, these are both exceptionally good careers. They have lots of career mobility, and I love both of them. And I think they're both absolutely critically important. So whichever career you desire, you could do well in, but just understand those differences. And Byron, what I would even say to you is this: what do you enjoy more? So if you are like me and you like getting out there and talking to people and selling things, presenting things, and writing, then the cloud architect is a beautiful job for you. But Byron, if you don't like going out there and talking to people and meeting people and presenting and writing, and you like tech more, guess what? The cloud engineer is a better job for you. So it's really about finding what's going to make you happy and fulfilled. As Mark Twain said, make your vocation or your job your vacation, and you'll never work a day in your life. And I agree with that, because when I left internal medicine for tech, I loved it so much I've never worked a day in my life. And I put in some long days, but I've never worked a day in my life. Love that question, Byron Ross. Excellent question. and totally appropriate. So thank you for asking your questions. And if you want more questions or have deeper questions about it, please ask back. And for those of you in the audience, please, please, please ask some questions. As a reminder, I see the badges up there. We are extending our anniversary sale through the weekend. So if you're trying to get cloud hired as a cloud architect, cloud engineer, or something like that, now is your time with the special sale. So keep that in the back of your mind. Yes, Chow. And Chow is over there with the Blue Ranch. We have so many wonderful, exciting things going on today. We had a wonderful premiere with one of the best cloud security and security engineers I know. We released a military program to help our heroes get hired. We have a cloud engineering program to help people get their first cloud engineering job, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. No instructions. Cloud hired in Las Vegas. I love that. Here to win, cloud hired. That's why we do what we do. And Tantrum, PhD Shell, cloud hired. Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. We wouldn't be here for any other reason. You wouldn't catch us making a certification exam and people not get hired afterwards. It's all about getting cloud hired. Hi, Mike. You're new to tech. After enrolling in your course, after how many months would we start preparing for certification exams? Abdul, that's up to you, and here's the reason why. The certification exams are so simple. And there's two approaches to certification exams, Abdul. The approach one, which is what I use, which is learn all the tech. Learn how it works, how to design it, learn all of it. And then spend 2 days with a practice test and knock out any of these exams, because that's all it's going to take is 2 days when you know it. And Abdul, to put it into context, I knew cloud. And I hadn't worked on the Google Cloud. But I knew cloud, and I've been designing clouds up for decades. But I didn't touch the Google Cloud. So I wanted to prove our training content was good. So I had said to my partner at the time, I said, we're going to test our AWS free book. And he says, how do you want to do that, Mike? And I said, I'm going to go take the Google exam for the professional cloud architect. And of course, my buddy Nathan says, you're an idiot, Mike. It's a different brand. It's a different brand. And I said, no, Nathan, if our training is good, we can write a book for the AWS and our people can take an Azure exam or a Google exam with less than 2 days notice. And of course, my partner said, you're crazy, Mike. So what did I do? I bought the Cybex book on passing the Google Professional Cloud Architect. I ordered it on a Friday. It showed up around Saturday. I read it on Saturday and Sunday, took the exam on Monday, and within 45 minutes was done the exam. And you know why I was done the exam? It was so simple because I actually knew. So Abdullah, what I'd say is, on the scam of things, what does certification equate to? So our program is about 500 hours. So hours. 20 hours in that program are related to the AWS Certified Solution Architect Professional, and probably another 10 hours are designed to, or 15 for the Azure Solution Architect Expert. And that's all that we spend time on certification. The rest of our training is making sure you have the skills to do the job, that you can present yourself to get the job, that you know how to interview for the job, that you know how to negotiate a salary to get a lot more money, that you know that you're hireable and likable by the managers. And Abdul, when you get your first job, you're so good at it that you get promoted like this, as opposed to teeter-tottering. So there's that. So for example, I've had some people do it. Like I had one student, Millicent, and she's super smart. And she decided in the first 2 weeks she was going to knock out the CCNP, the AWS Certified Solution Architect Professional, as well as the Azure Solution Architect Expert, and the Oracle Cloud Professional one. And she decided to do it all in 2 weeks. So the key is, I say, learn the content first. And the reason I say this is the only value certifications have, Abdul, is to help you get an interview. They don't get you hired, and nobody cares, but they do get you an interview. And the reason, Abdul, that certifications get you the interview is they give the illusion that you might be competent. So what happens is we use the certifications to get the interview, but we know hiring managers don't care about certifications, but they are willing to bring you in for an interview with the certification. So certification gets you the interview, and then what we teach is what gets you hired. Where people go wrong is they get certified and they don't have the skills for the job, and then they get interview after interview after interview, and they get told each time, come back when you have no experience. And it's not that they want more experience. It's that if you interview someone and they can't do the job, you've got two choices. You're horrible, you could say to them, or come back when you have more experience. Doesn't that sound so much nicer? It's a beautiful euphemism that says you didn't do a good job on the interview, but I don't want to crush your feelings. So I would say it's up to you and the speed that you learn. All that I care, Abdul, is that you learn the content really, 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 really well. And then once you know that content, we do these certifications just to help you get your name out there. Otherwise, there's no other reason for these certifications. It's just to help you get an interview. The training is what gets you hired. And Abdul, very recently, I've had several people get hired by the cloud providers that had 0 certifications, but they had competency, knowledge, capability. Jeffrey West was one of my great students, and he made a video that you can see on this channel. He got hired recently as a cloud architect, and he's a great cloud architect. And you want to hear the funny thing? He didn't get any certifications until after he was hired. And I also have to tell you this, I have a lot of networking friends that are working as senior architects, principal architects, distinguished architects that have no cloud certs, but they have a lot of network and data center knowledge. So when you're in the course, you'll know when it's right. We do enough architectures in class, and when you know this stuff and you don't even have to think about it, then life is super, super easy. So kind of keep that in the back of your mind. And please feel free, Abdul, to ask more questions. Sakai, happy Good Friday. Yes, absolutely. Mr. Businessman, cloud hired. Leo Parades, yes, if you like this, please hit the like button, comment, subscribe, hit the bell, all those kind of great things to be informed of all the new things we're doing. Thickest throat? Sure, I'd be happy to explain the cloud architecture well, end to end with real time. So this is really, really what you need to know. Here's what architects do, Vikas. We do customer relationship management. We do sales. We do systems design. We do presentations. We write documents. We respond to RFIs, RFPs, RFQs, like requests for information, requests for proposal, requests for query, requests for pricing, those kind of things. We do a lot of that. We present at a lot of industry conferences, and we write a lot of thought leadership. So here's a typical day for me, Vikas, as an architect. First, I'd wake up. Now, this is very common for me, Vikas. So let's say it was Tuesday. I woke up on a Tuesday. I got to work at 9 a.m. I might speak to some really smart people in Bangalore for an hour or two in the morning, speak to some people in the UK for an hour or two in the morning, ask Dale some customer questions, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I might do something like that. Then, Vikas, I would typically speaking, be asked to give a presentation at a customer site, and then I would typically take that customer to lunch. And then I might go back to my office and develop documentation and presentations, and I might stay in my office for the next 3 days writing documentations and speeches. Or Vikas, as an architect, what I did most of the time was I'd get in my car, I'd start my day, and I'd give a presentation via, say, WebEx or telepresence, high definition video. Then I would go to an executive briefing center and give presentations to executives from a company, like the CEO, the CFO, the CIO, the CTO, et cetera. And then I would respond to some emails. So all in all, as an architect, it's 100% system design. So if you've ever seen like what a sales engineer does, where they go out with the account manager and sell, well, the architect is a much more executive version of that same sales engineer. They meet with the customer, they design something, they make sure it's going to work, and they sell it. Now, Vikas, when we are an architect, let's say a customer, and it's happened to me so many times in my life, they have something they need to fix. And we as an architect, I create the solution for them. And then they say, prove it to me. Prove that it's going to work. And that's very common. So we get involved in a lot of proof of concepts. So here's what happens. The customer says, I want to try this new cool application. And they say, if it works, we're going to buy it. So typically what happens is the following. The architect will then call as many cloud engineers as they know to come in for the proof of concept. The architect will sit there. They'll go to the customer site each day and they'll schmooze, kiss some babies. How are you? It's good to see you. Nice to see you, Mr. Jones. How you feeling today, Mr. Jones? Mr. Roberts, how you doing? Mr. Johnson, how you doing? Mrs. Smith, how are you? And we go around, we kiss some babies, we ask some questions to people. Then we go supervise our team. And our team's trying to do stuff. And while the team's trying to do stuff, somebody at the customer site's jumping all over them. And we got to go manage that relationship and take that person out to lunch so that our team can go do what they need with nobody watching. And then when somebody's mean to our team, we got to stand up and lead our team. Now, Vikas, when we're leading a team of engineers, they don't work for us, meaning we borrowed them from other people's managers. So asking someone to work for you that you can't fire or discipline, requires a set of leadership skills that is extraordinary. So really what we do is we go talk to people, we go give presentations, we design technology, we present at conferences, we write thought leadership information, we sell and we manage relationships. Now, Vikas, as an architect, we don't touch the technology. In fact, the last time I configured technology other than teaching it was the day I left engineering and became an architect. Now, Vikas, I'm going to actually tell you this. We have a cloud engineering program that's so amazing, and it's launching on May 1st. Now, I actually prefer the way architects communicate because, half of the architect training is communication training. So I called 15 architects that I know that are working at AWS and Google and Azure and all these great companies. And I said, would any of you be willing to teach some hands-on configuration skills? And everybody laughed at me and they said, Mike, I'm an architect. Architects don't touch the technology. We design and sell and present, write thought leadership papers. And I said, I know. So that's the job. Meet with the customer, get their business requirements, get their technical requirements, design an architecture, manage the team that's doing the proof of concept, sell it to the customer, negotiate the sales price with the customer, and go to the next customer, design the next thing, and the next customer, design the next thing, and the next customer, design the next thing. And Vikas, let me tell you, it is one of the best jobs ever. You're treated with more respect than anything in the world, but it's really a non-technical job. It is a customer-facing where you take your technical knowledge and you design it. So, Vikas, if you think of a building architect that designs this beautiful 1,000-meter tall building over there in UAE, for example, and it looks like a sailboat, and it's got multiple helipads, and it's got lush gardens and waterfalls, the architect designs that, but the architect doesn't build it. They hire construction crews, so it's the same thing. We are the designer of the tech, just the way a building architect is the designer of the building. Now, the cloud engineers are the people that build our world. In building real architects, they hire construction crews. So hope I explained that to you. And please, please, please feel free to ask more questions. Pat Patel, is there a difference between the cloud engineering program and the cloud architect program and the training programs? There is a major difference. They're completely different programs, and here's the reason. A cloud architect does system design. A cloud engineer does system building. So for cloud architects, we have to teach you how to do a return on capital investment. Because, for example, when you try and sell your product to the customer, if you can't show them the value of the solution is greater than the value of the solution to the customer is greater than its cost, they won't be interested. As an architect, if you don't know how to present at a conference, you won't be hired. In fact, as an architect, you'll have to give a presentation on your interview. And if that presentation is not CXO relevant, executive relevant, you won't be hired. Now, the cloud architect is a leadership position. Without that, you won't be hired. So Pat Patel, the cloud architect is an executive plus technologist, and we train that. Now, Pat Patel, remember, the cloud architect is a systems designer. We don't touch the technology, Pat. So when we train architects, we have to make sure you know all about how the technology works. Because for us as architects, it's all about how it works because we designed it. Cloud architects don't code. Cloud architects don't configure. So learning coding when you're trying to be a cloud architect does not make you a better architect. It makes you a worse architect because you're busy learning somebody else's job and not the real job. Learning how to configure does not make you a better architect because you're learning somebody else's job. So Pat Patel, our architecture program is designed to build the world's greatest architects. And Pat Patel, our architects get hired every single day. Now, our cloud engineer program is awesome, but it's for cloud engineers. So while architects are designers, cloud engineers are builders. So they need a completely different set of school. Cloud architects don't code, they don't configure, they don't automate. Now, engineers do. So for our cloud engineering program, we still teach how the tech works. Now, we still teach the executive skills. And even though they're not completely required for the cloud engineer, here's why we teach them. It makes the employer so much more likely to hire you. So we teach them to get our people hired. And by doing it, it gives our students and the engineering students the ability to get much higher paying jobs with much better career progression. But that's where the similarities stop. In the cloud engineering program, we have a huge Linux training program, upwards of 8 to 16 hours of content, let alone the labs. So in the Linux program, so for that, there's a massive Linux amount. Now, in the engineering program, because our cloud engineers code, we have to teach Python coding, which we would never teach to an architect. Now, because our cloud engineers are going to build with infrastructure as code, our cloud engineers need to learn Terraform. So Pat Patel, the courses are exactly opposite. And the reason why we had to do this is as follows. 99% of courses out there are for cloud admins, which is, the junior level thing. Cloud engineers are extreme professionals that need lots of knowledge that's not covered in any certification. And cloud architects need a lot of knowledge that's also not covered in certification, but they're very different careers. So Pat Patel, the way you train a doctor and a nurse is differently. The way you train a pharmacist and a physical therapist is different. The way you train a pilot and a flight attendant is different. And there's extreme differences between our engineering and architecture courses because engineers do one job and architects do another job. And one of the things that I'll tell you, Pat, when it comes to optimizing your career, when you train for your job and you master your job, you do great. When you master somebody else's job and not your job, then you don't do very well at all. So that's why our programs are very specific, because everything that we do is about getting cloud hired, cloud hired, cloud hired, cloud hired, cloud hired. And we can't get people cloud hired by teaching the wrong skills. So if we teach engineering skills to architects, nobody's interested. If we teach architecture skills to engineers, it helps them. But if we don't teach engineering skills to engineers, they can't do the job. So that's why we make them so different, because all of our people get cloud hired in the end. That's what's different about us. We don't stop at certification. Our students get hired. And we let people stay in our course for up to a year if they need it. No, nobody needs to get cloud hired, but we don't quit on our students. If they're in our program, they're getting hired. As long as they do the work, show up for class, complete all the projects as part of their plan, and we've given them a year in our program to get there. Chris, you can bring in the next one. And Pat, an extremely good question there. If you guys have some questions, please ask me. Pat Patel, if you're in the architect program, can you also do the engineer program? Well, Pat, I want to make this kind of clear. If you train for your career, you're going to do great. If you train for somebody else's career, you're not going to be good at all. So while I'd love to sell you both courses from a business perspective, I want you to take the course that's good for your career. If you want to be an airplane pilot, learn how to fly the plane. And if you want to be the flight attendant, learn how to fly the plane. But if you're in my architect program, which is how to fly the plane, I don't really see a point of putting you in my engineering program and teaching you how to hand out drinks and keep patients in their seats, because it's a different career. So if you want to be a cloud engineer, I'd love to see you in my cloud engineering program. And if you wanted to be a cloud architect, I'd love to see you in my architect program. But they're different jobs and they're different careers. And I don't sell anything to anybody that doesn't get them to their career. So you're more than welcome to do both. I can't stop you from doing that. You can just buy both courses, but I recommend that you pick one and you focus your career on one thing and you master it. And neurosurgeon is known to be a neurosurgeon because they study neurosurgery and not podiatry. So keep that in the back of your mind. I'd love to sell as many courses as possible, but I really care more about you getting cloud hired. And if you have the right skills for your job, you'll get cloud hired. And if you have the wrong skills for your jobs, you won't. So that's why I recommend that. But if you've taken my cloud architect class, and for example, you decided, woohoo, I want to be a cloud engineer, I don't mind switching you back and forth. But it's more for me about making sure that you're in the right program so you get hired.
Same question. I think we need to talk about it a little bit.
So this is kind of the same question, Abhishek. If you signed up for the cloud architecture program, which is a system design, and then you sign up for the cloud engineer program, and you do cloud engineering things, your resume is going to be mixed. And if you have a cloud engineering resume, you won't be getting hired as a cloud architect. And if you have a cloud architect resume, you won't be getting hired as a cloud engineer. So, you can do one or the other. If you sign up for both, I promise you won't have a career in the end. And I don't want that for you. I want you getting hired. Now, you can, if you signed up for the cloud architect program and decide you want to be a hands-on techie, as opposed to, an architect, that is fine. We'll switch you over, Abhishek, and we can do that. But the key is you really got to know what is the career you want, because I don't want you to do both. I want you to focus. And again, it goes back to the same thing. And I see this in tech. The biggest career killer in tech is when somebody learns everybody else's job other than their own. In medicine, I don't say it. People don't go to school for medicine and say, hey, to be a better doctor, I'm going to go work as a paramedic and then an EMT and then a nurse and then a pharmacist. They don't do that. And that's why we in medicine have great careers. Lawyers don't do it either. Accountants don't do it either. Only in tech have I heard somebody say, hey, guess what? If I work a help desk job, which doesn't teach architecture, and then I go work an admin job, and then I do an engineering job, hey, wait, that might help me design systems, but it doesn't work that way. To design systems, you learn how to design, and to build systems, you learn how to build. And I'm happy, Abhishek, to switch you from the one program to the other if that's your desire. And I can't stop you from buying 2 courses if you want to do that, but I'm trying to build your career. And building your career says pick one, because it's a matter of getting the right training for your job. Now, in our career development program for our cloud architects, people are getting hired every day. And the reason they're getting hired every day is they have the exact skills that the hiring managers want. How do we know what the hiring managers want? Well, we ask thousands of recruiters, hiring managers, and we tell us what they want. AWS actually, at one point, one of their employees came into one of my cloud architect classes and said, I love this program. I recommend it to so many people. And the reason I recommend it and love it, it's my personal view, is as follows. Everybody else is teaching the name of the service and how to configure it. And we don't do that as architects. You're teaching architecture, you're teaching system design, you're teaching the leadership, the soft skills, the emotional intelligence. That's what I need, Mike. That's what I hire. I don't hire hands-on techies for architects. And I said, I know, and that's why we create our program. So we create hands-on techies in the engineering program. If you're a hands-on techie trying to work as an architect, they're going to see you in an interview and say, whoa, I don't want a hands-on techie. I want an executive. Likewise, if you're an executive like me and you're applying for a cloud engineering program, they're like, no. I want an engineer. So got to make sure you're there. Now, I've been engineers and I've been architects. And it's all about what you desire. In fact, we recently just had, an hour ago, we had a video between me as an architect and an engineer. And you can see the difference between us. And you can see how much we respect and like each other, because there is no architecture without an engineer. And there is no building without the architect. So we're hand in hand, but it's a different career. So I'd say figure out which career you like. Master the career you want. And that's how you become capable. Dorian Wright. Hey, Mike and Chris, are there many cloud architects roles that are 100% remote for digital nomads? Well, I think you have to understand what is meant by remote in the architecture world. So remote is as follows. I worked remote architect. I was a remote architect for the last 20 some years. The last time I went to an office was 2003. I never needed to, but Dorian, I'm going to make this very clear. When I worked from home remotely, I traveled a lot. So it really depends. Yes, you can work from home, and I get asked for work from home remote jobs every day of the week. There's not a day where 3 to 5 recruiters don't reach out to me. It used to be 15, but I took the title Cloud Architect off of my LinkedIn profile because it was just getting too annoying. And I love when people reach out to me, but I couldn't keep up with all the recruiters that were reaching out to me with the term Cloud Architect, because literally speaking, there's 1,000,001 jobs open for that. But yes, there are roles for people that are there, but it's not going to be like you're going to go from, it's probably not going to be the best job if you think you're going to go live in New York City for a month, and then Atlanta for 3 months, and then Palm Beach for 3 months, and then Houston for 3 months. You might get away with, working from home in Palm Beach like me, which I used to do, and then going to Raleigh for the next 2 months because you got sent there for a project, and going to Toronto or Mississauga for a month or 2. And then from there, going to Mexico City for 3 or 4 weeks, and then going to San Jose, California for a month. You could do that. The real key, Dorian, is we've got to touch our customer. We've got to speak to our customer. We've got to look them in the eye and get business requirements. So remote means you're working from home. But remember, this is a customer-facing role. And when it's big deals and important deals, you have to go visit the customer. And the reason working from home has worked so great is, it doesn't matter where you write your documents from, deliver your presentations from, create your presentations, create your thought leadership materials. All that doesn't matter, Dorian. You can do that anywhere in the world, anytime, and it's awesome. I mean, it's truly awesome. but you will be visiting customers. Remote roles mean customer visits. Office roles mean you can go to the office and bring the customer into the office. But I've been working remote now for 20 years, and let me tell you, I go to the customer side a lot. But I like going meeting my customers. I go in there, ask some questions, buy them some dinner, build a relationship. And you know what? When you have a relationship with your customer and you've got some established rapport with your customer, they are much more likely to buy your architectures. They're much more likely to work with you, and they are so much more likely to help you in every way. So please feel free to ask some questions in the chat box. That's why we're here, to help you build your best cloud career. Dan A. Hi, Mike. I'm really hyped for this training. When is this class starting? The days and times, etc. So Dan A., I don't know which class you're referring to. If you're referring to our Cloud Architect Career Development Program, the class starts the second you order. See, what happens is there's 3 elements in this program. There's the live classes, there's the on-demand classes, and there's the labs. And these labs are cool. This is where I get my inner geek on. So here's what we do. The live classes are on Tuesday at 9 a.m. Eastern, which is also 2 p.m. UK time. The second class, Dan A, for the week is on Thursday at 4 p.m. Eastern time, which is 9 p.m. UK time. The third class is Friday at noon Eastern time, which is 5 p.m. UK time. And Dan A, we record every class in case you miss one. And the classes are lively and fun. In these live classes, we design architectures together. We do leadership things together, presentation skills together, everything that's needed to make you a great cloud architect. Now, in between classes, we've got hundreds of hours of videos and projects we do, and this stuff is good. It'll be everything from career plan building to analyzing your career. And trust me, you are going to do fantastic in this. You're going to learn so much. And every project or thing that you do, guess what? You turn in for feedback, and we give you feedback, and you know you're getting better from my expert team. Now, Dan, the next element is the lab element. Now, even though we cloud architects don't really configure, somewhere in the video, they're going to want to know you have experience. And, you know, people go and do what I call AWS labs. They set up a WordPress site, they set up an S3 bucket, an EC2 instance, and they walk in on the hiring manager, and the hiring manager laughs at them. And they say, that's all great, but I need somebody that's done something. So Dan, what do? We do the labs differently. Yes, our students, we have 30 AWS labs and 30 Azure labs in the program, but we do labs that get you hired. And here's what we do. As cloud architects, what we do is we take the stuff, the network and the data center stuff from the data center, and actually move it to the cloud. That's all we do for the most part, is lift and shift the stuff from the data center to the cloud, which is another data center, but virtualized. And when people learn the cloud, they know the cloud, but they don't know the data center. And the problem is, if they don't know the data center, they don't know how to move the things to the cloud. And that's the problem with all the cloud certification training. It doesn't address any of the things architects do, just the name of the service and how to configure that service, which isn't part of our job. So we have our students set up server virtualization containers, build firewalls, build VPN concentrators, build the LAMP stack, set up an Active Directory server, set up file sharing, server message block, NFS, and many, many more things. And why do we do that, Dan? Because they are everything that makes the cloud possible. So first, we make our students learn everything that makes the cloud possible, which is all the stuff they're going to be migrating to the cloud. And then, Dan, we have every one of our students, nobody gets through the program without it, they build a cloud from scratch. So Dan, I don't have a single student that wouldn't know how to create AWS from scratch or build Google from scratch. Every one of my students could build a cloud and start their own cloud company. And Dan, internally, we even run our own OpenStack cloud. So that's what our students do. And our students basically are wildly, wildly successful. Every day somebody gets cloud hired or promoted. And you know what? The engineering program is going to follow the same format, but with more engineering skills. Pat Jr., hi, Mike. You passed the SACO2 yesterday. That's a good start, but you still need more hands-on experience and career advice. So you signed up to the course. Great, fantastic. We will teach you the job, Pat Jr., and we will teach you how to be an actual architect. Now, remember, we're not hands-on. If you want to be an architect, the hands-on experience you need is design experience. But we're going to get you a ton of hands-on design experience because that's the experience you need. You'll also have hands-on tech experience, which I recommend you do. And we recommend all our students do the hands-on labs that are in the program. And the reason we recommend that is as follows. It makes it easy for you to say you've done it in the past. And that for us is really, really, really important. Really, really important. Really, really important. Critically important. So thrilled that you passed the exam because now you don't have to take it again. And now we can actually teach you the job. And we're excited to do so, Pat Jr. When you come to class on Tuesday, I promise you will learn a lot. Now, be fair. The first 2 weeks of classes, people are a little lost because we go so deep. But after 2 weeks, our students are doing rock solid, and our students are getting hired every day. And some of my students are here, such as Chow and Leo, that were students of mine before I decided to hire them. So great. We can talk about how well they did. But excited to have you in the program, Pat Jr. Thrilled that you're there, and I know you're going to have a great experience. And I also know if you do the work, you show up for classes, you're going to be cloud hired. And every time somebody gets cloud hired, which is every day, it brings me to tears. So that's the joy of my life. I don't need to work. I was totally retired. I'm doing this because I saw what it was existing in certification training, and I knew nobody was getting hired, and I felt bad about it. And I want everybody to build the best tech career. I love my tech career. It was the best thing that happened to me, and I'm here to help you all build it too. Pat, I'm excited to be working with you. B to point one, cloud hired. Good morning. If you've got some questions, please ask them. We want to help you get to your goal. Colin, it's so good to see you again. Cloud hired. Good morning. Pat Patel, you are so welcome. Please ask us some questions. That's why we're here. Which of the cloud providers are used in the engineering program? I want to make this very clear. In every program we use, we teach all clouds are the main ones. So nobody will get through our program and not know what is the cloud. So that means all of my students will know how to work on Azure, AWS, Oracle, Google, OpenStack, and Nutanix. Now, our students will do labs on 3 clouds, Azure, AWS, and OpenStack. And all of our students will build an OpenStack cloud, 100% of them. And our students can connect that OpenStack cloud to an Active Directory server. Our students can take that cloud and connect it to Google and Azure or AWS. We don't even care. And we teach all clouds. And to be fair, in every class, we design across multiple things. So we're always dealing with multiple cloud providers. And here's the reason we have to. There is no such thing as a single cloud now. Here's the data. In today's world, 87% of customers are not single cloud because they're not crazy. They know single cloud means single point of failure, regardless of what the cloud provider tells you. And here's why. If the control plane of the cloud goes, you lose everything. If the networking on the cloud goes, you lose everything. If the cloud gets hacked, you lose the whole cloud. So nobody's crazy enough to really put all their eggs in one basket. I mean, it's just insanity. So 87% of people right now use multi-cloud. And when CIOs are polled, only 3% of them say they'll be single cloud moving forward. They're all going multi-cloud, hybrid cloud and multi-cloud. So we teach all clouds in our program. And here's the thing. When we teach you the cloud, you're an expert on all clouds. So kind of keep that in the back of your mind. So lots of hands-on time on AWS, lots of hands-on time on Azure, but you will know the cloud and you will be building a cloud from scratch. And the reason we have you build a cloud from scratch is the following. When we ask hiring managers, and I've asked millions of them, I'm exaggerating a little bit, but not much. When you ask hiring managers, what do you want in the perfect employee? Here's what they tell us. They tell us they want someone that is capable or competent. They tell us someone they can trust. They tell us someone that knows what they know and knows what they don't know so they don't make bad mistakes. You tell us they want someone that's energetic, enthusiastic, and passionate about the technology. And you know what else they tell us? They want someone that's willing to go above and beyond and a team player. So what do we do when we make our courses? We picked out labs that are very specific. They teach you all clouds, but more importantly, they make sure you understand the cloud so well that you'll always been there. Now, when you go on an interview and you've shown that you've worked on AWS, Azure, and you've designed and built your own clouds, your own Active Directory servers, all this stuff, the whole ecosystem, and you've all worked on it. Now you go on that interview and wow, you stand out. Now I want you to think about this. You've got somebody over here on the left. I set up an EC2 instance, an S3 bucket, and a WordPress website. Things that I taught an 8-year-old to do, literally speaking, each in 5 minutes. Now, on the right side, you've got someone that went through art training. Well, I've set up all these things on Azure, basic. I've set all these things up on AWS Basic, but I've designed and built my own cloud. I've worked with Active Directory servers for system authentication. I've worked with VMware ESXi for enterprise-wide computing, and I'm very familiar with the ESXi offerings on the AWS cloud. I've worked with firewalls, VPN concentrators, because we know we're not going to be using the AWS cloud native services such as WAF and Teal. We're going to be using something more industrial, and I have the skills and I've done it. So in our cloud engineering program, we are deep Linux, Terraform, OpenStack, Azure, AWS, Python, Bash scripting, and PowerShell scripting, because that's the skills of an engineer. So those are the things that are in our engineering program. And let me tell you, it is going to be a fantastic experience for you. You will learn a lot, and you'll understand why we have several hundred hours of training in our cloud engineering program. You're going to enjoy your time on AWS, Azure, OpenStack, and you will know how to go to any cloud, anywhere, anytime, at a moment's notice, and you'll know exactly what to do with just a few configuration changes. Gilbert. Hi, Mike. Would you recommend clearing the certs first and then concentrate on the program, or do both simultaneously? Gilbert, here's my recommendation. So I'm a business executive, and architects are business executives. In business, we calculate the opportunity cost of your time. So I want you to think about this. What does opportunity cost mean? It means you've got 2 business investments. Business investment 1 is a $1,000 training program that can raise your salary by $100,000. Business investment 2 is a trip to Palm Beach for 2 days, staying at the Breakers Hotel with beautiful service and a massage included every day. You have a choice in your life to which you want: the posh vacation at the nicest hotel in one of the nicest hotels in the US, or do you want to add 6 figures to your career for the rest of your life? Now, you can only do both. So that's called the opportunity cost in business. Now, the average cloud architect, Gilbert, earns $600 a day, and a good one earns at least double that. So if you're an average cloud architect and you spend 3 months doing your certifications first, that's $12,000 per month that you actually lost in terms of income. So if you start the course, which you've already signed up for, and do it all in the same time, and you learn the content, and once you know the content, then you do the certs, well, you'll be able to do certifications that would take you 3 months in a day or 2, because you'll know, and then you'll also be hireable in the end. So I recommend you actually start working on the content, learn the content, learn the capabilities, and then do the silly certification piece. And here's the thing, Gilbert, certifications don't get anybody hired. The only point of certifications is they help you get an interview, and that's it. They mean nothing more than that. So I don't want you going on an interview until you're ready to be hired, because if you do, you know what's going to happen? The company will interview you, they'll think you're bad, and they'll tell you not to come back again. So I don't want anybody interviewing until they're ready. If you're trained right, you should get interviewed within 3 interviews. And if somebody goes on more than 3 interviews and they're not hired, there's a problem. There's a problem with the person's competency, their communication skills, their leadership skills, emotional intelligence, or attitude. So my students, Gilbert, get hired every day, and you're going to get hired too. And we're really, really excited. But my recommendation is train first. And when you're polishing up your resume, that's the time you take care of the certifications. Because remember, you got to bake the cake. The cake is the substance. The certification is just icing to just help you get an interview. And we treat it as that, because we know for a fact what hiring managers and executives think of certifications. Well, that's not good. Spilled all over me. Lion Lord 3211. You're a cloud engineer and want to make the switch to cloud architecture. Will the course help with your resume and other things? Absolutely. So we work with lots of cloud engineers that are trying to transition to cloud architects. And here's the thing. When somebody's a cloud engineer and a really deep, really smart person with all these tech skills, here's what we have to do. We have to teach you the leadership skills, the business acumen, the executive presence, the emotional intelligence, the sales skills, the presentation skills, and the negotiation skills. And we will. Now, as an engineer, you know all about building. And as an architect, it's all about design. So we will also teach you that. But we will also teach you the critical things of how not to be an engineer when you're an architect. Because Lion Lord 3211, what I'm going to tell you is this. One of the biggest problems people have as cloud architects is they were engineers first and they try to do engineering things. And that will kill their career. So I come from an engineering background. I love it. But let me tell you this. You can't be an engineer when you're an architect. So we will teach you everything that you need to know. And I work with a lot of cloud engineers and they get great cloud architect jobs. And usually when I have them, I can get them even better cloud architect jobs than people with health tech experience because they've got tech experience and people like that. But yes, we could easily do it. And we've had lots of people so far that have come from cloud engineering. We've got people, well, I guess we have people that get hired everywhere. So for example, yesterday we had, no, it was 2 days ago, we had a minister that got hired by AWS. So it's just an example that it doesn't matter where you're coming from. But my student Jawad, he was working as a cloud engineer. He came to us for about 4 months, and then we got him a great cloud architect job working for AWS as a senior cloud architect, and he is beyond excited. So the plan is we can definitely help you transition careers. We do it every single day, and we'd be honored to help you become a cloud architect from a cloud engineer. And I think you'll absolutely love the job, and we'd be thrilled to help you. And yes, we do the resume. We teach all those things that are necessary to transition. And our students are wildly successful. They get cloud hired every day. And you know what? With our 30% discount that we have running on right now, it's really a great chance for you to build that cloud architecture career and build the career of your dreams and go out there and love it. And that's why we do this. That's why we do so many free question and answer sessions. That's what we do all over how to get your first cloud architect job webinar, because I want you all to know how. Now, granted, we try to be the cheapest and best opportunity for you to get there, but I want you all to know how and the path so you can get there, so you can all have the career of your dreams. Because I got to tell you, I liked medicine when I used to practice internal medicine. When I switched to tech, it was the greatest thing ever. I don't think I've ever worked. And I want you to have a career like that where you're happy, you love what you do, you get paid well, you can retire early, take care of your family. I don't care what it is. I just want you to have the best career. Abhishek Sarkar, I think you need to really think about this. You're hesitant to become a cloud architect because you're scared of customer-facing activities. I understand that. And then you said, I would rather solve technical problems. Now, Abhishek Sarkar, I want you to understand this. When it comes to troubleshooting, the biggest strength that you have is actually getting in front of customers and asking them what's going on and asking people's questions. So guess what? Even as a cloud engineer, you're going to have to be customer-facing and ask questions. And if you don't, your cloud engineering career will be down there and it will never get advanced. So, people skills are required for either of these two careers. And don't get me wrong, you can get away with being an engineer with lower people skills, but you'll be at the bottom of the engineering world, closer to the admin world, and you'll never get out of it, because the biggest asset for the architect is actually communication skills. And here's why. Nobody hands us a piece of paper that says build this, so we got to go ask the questions. Now, Abhishek Sarkar, I'm going to tell you this. When it comes to engineering, there's multiple kinds of engineers. There's back-end cloud engineers, there's customer-facing sales engineers, and there's the engineers that kind of master both engineering and architecture, both engineering and communication at the same time. And these people, and I was one of them, their career is like this. So it's up to you. And you can build a career as a cloud engineer without focusing so much on people. But realize this, if you do, your career will never go anywhere. Being able to communicate with people is very critical. Now, if you're really good as a cloud engineer, I mean that you are so good that you're one of the top 1/10 of 1%, you will find a decent job, but they will hide you in a basement. And they'll bring food in and out for you. And there's plenty of engineers like that, but they get stuck to the basement. And I've worked with a lot of them, and I know a lot of them that are really, really happy stuck in the basement, some of the really techies. And if that's you, that's great, because what it really is a matter of just understanding what you love. But I want you to know the full picture. The better your communication skills, sales skills, leadership skills, etc., great. If you're an engineer with really good engineering skills, you're a member of the team in a very valuable method, and you're really doing really great. And you're a peer of the architect. And and those cloud engineers have a great career that you're going to love it. So the thing is, I just want you to know that regardless of whether it's a cloud architect or a cloud engineer, if you want the better jobs, the really good jobs, then you need to focus on the communication skills too. And if you don't, no matter what you do, your career will be severely limited. And that's in tech, that's out of tech, and that's in every career. So if you've got some questions, please ask them. And I really want to help you get your goal career. Just like that last question. I really want people to know, look, if you're going to take this trade-off, and you can. And being an engineer is not a trade-off. Being an engineer is awesome. Love engineers. And you just saw me talk to Nick, an engineer in security that I respect, that I bring with me on problems because he's that good. I love engineers. I just want, whether you're a cloud architect or a cloud engineer, I want you to maximize that career so that you have an unstoppable career and you can do whatever you want. Hey, Mike, you understand that requirements gathering is a big part of coming up with a solid design. Any tips on how to improve your questioning and skills? Please keep up the great work. Yes, I've got lots of tips on this. HM0123. So here's the thing. The communication skills, the asking the question, customer question skills, how to learn things with open-minded is probably the most critical skill in the world for tech people. Now, HM0123, I'll tell you what, I spent $250,000 on these skills with Cisco and me. They helped send me to school, and I took other classes that I paid for myself. It was a combination. And realistically speaking, it cost about $250,000 to really get good at these skills. So what I did is I created the Cloud Architect Career Development Program, and we teach all those skills in this program. And truth be told, we actually have another program that's very special called the Tech Career Accelerator Program. And what that's really designed for is anybody that's working as a technology professional that wants to be better. So maybe a cloud engineer that wants to become a principal engineer or a distinguished engineer or an engineering manager, or maybe an architect that wants to go from senior architect to principal architect, or a cloud program manager that wants to become like a director or VP. So that's an exceptionally good program, and that would teach you those same skills as well. But the problem is, if you're not taking one of our courses, these are very expensive skills to learn. And like I said, I learned $250,000. So where could you learn them if you're not with us? Well, you could work for a big four management consulting firm, and they will teach these skills. Or you could get an MBA, and they will teach you some of these skills. You could take some CXO relevancy courses, and they will also give you some of these skills. And why is the CXO relevancy piece so critical? Because you need to know what questions to ask at what times. And some of the questions are to executives, and some of the questions are engineers. Now, you also need to learn how to ask the open-ended question, a kind of question that's going to get your customer talking. And you need to be able to listen to them and listen twice as much as you speak, if not 3 times more than you speak, to really pull that information and get that information they need. So kind of keep that in the back of your mind. Now, also, when you ask these questions, you will need some gravitas training or executive presence training. Now, it's covered in those 2 courses that I mentioned. But if you're not with us, there are training companies that teach executive presence. Again, it'll be $3,000 to $5,000 for the week. But you need those skills. The reason you need those skills is when you walk into a customer, "Hi, CEO, my name is Mike. I'm here to help design your systems." No. By comparison, "Joe, so good to see you today. When we last talked, you were struggling with sales. You were telling me that you were trying to increase sales by a certain percent. We've evaluated some things that we can do with your business. We feel that this new web architecture can increase your sales by 3.7%, which will equate to $1.86 million per week of increased revenue. We also believe that this communication and collaboration technology platform that we're going to looks like my internet went down for a second. That's what they want to hear from us. So that's kind of there. So if you don't have the business acumen, and we teach that to know which questions to ask, and you don't have the CXO relevancy to know which questions to ask, and then you need to know which business questions to ask, which again, we teach in our course. And if you don't have that, you could get it in an MBA because they'll be talking about that there. You're not going to know what. So it's a combination of knowing how to ask the questions and having all the executiveness and the gravitas and the weight behind you to get somebody there. So I would say take our course. And if you're not taking our course, take some executive presence training, take some presentation skills training. Make sure you take some business acumen training. Make sure you take some CXO relevancy training, and really go out there and look at what managing consulting companies do when they ask a CEO about their business. Because what we do as digital transformation specialists is the same thing that management consultants do. We ask the client about their business, and we've got to go. Tell me about your revenue. Tell me about tell me about your cost of goods sold. Tell me about where your money's coming from. Tell me about this. What is the business goal of this? Is it to increase sales? What is the goal of this application? Is it to improve the supply chain? What is the goal of this? So because after we know that, I want you to think about this. Here's the business. Here's the optimal end state for the business. And then the thing in the middle where my head is, so this is the business, is the optimal end state. My head is the technology that makes the end state possible. So think of it that way. So for that, focus on your leadership skills, because you've got to be an executive. Focus on business questions to ask. Make sure when you ask the question, you are a peer. You've got the right posture, the right verbal vocal tones, the right use of space, the right gravitas, the right level of emotional intelligence, and you're going to need a lot of empathy here. And here's the reason why you need so much empathy. Most of the time when a customer comes to you, it's because they made a mistake and they need you to help fix it. So when someone said, I did this dumb thing, this dumb thing, this dumb thing, this dumb thing, and they think it was a great idea, and you're hearing it, you know what you need to do? You need to be emotionally intelligent and understand it and say, I understand how you got here, and I can help you get to the goal. So those are the main things. What are the transferable skills that teachers bring to cloud architectures? Justin's Crib, so many amazing skills. I love this. So here's the thing. Do you know my favorite people to work with are? Sometimes they are teachers, they are nurses, they are psychologists, they are doctors, they are accountants, and they are lawyers. And you know why? Not necessarily so much accountants, but sometimes accountants. Here's what we have to do in this job. We have to talk to people. So if you actually are a teacher, these are the things that you do in real life that are the same job as the cloud architect. First, you deal with people. Now, as a teacher, not every kid wants to learn. So you have to have the sales skills to try and entertain them. Now, to some degree, you need some presentation skills. Now, there are different presentation skills in the architect, but you still need some presentation skills. And here's why. If you don't have good presentation skills, your kids are doing this. Hold on. Wake me up when it's time to go. Yeah, okay. Got it. So, you can't do that. So you've got to be a leader in order to bring out the best. You've got to keep people engaged. So that's a lot of what we do as an architect. Now, as a teacher, not every kid's happy. Some kids have bad parents. Some kids have emotional issues. Some kids have learning disabilities. And as the teacher, you are solving kids' problems, whether they be learning problems, family problems, etc. What do we do as an architect? 100% of everything we do is about solving problems or transforming something. Now, as an architect, we do a lot of education in our world. We ask the customer, we design something, and we present it back and sell it to them. And we often leave a very big document that explains how it works. So hopefully, as a teacher, you've got some good writing skills as well, and some good presentation skills as well. So, these are big skills that come from teaching. So I want you to actually think about what the job as an architect. And I'm going to tell you where I learned architecture. It's when I used to practice medicine. And this is where people say, Mike, I love you, but you're crazy. But I'm not. And I'll tell you why. When I used to practice medicine, here's what somebody did. Patient comes in and they say, Mike, I got a headache. Okay. So I'd say, tell me about your headache. What makes it better? What makes it worse? And then I'd say to the client or the patient, can I examine you? And they'd say, of course, Mike, I want to get better. I'd look in their eyes, their ears, their nose, their throat, listen to the heart and the lungs. Guess what? Then I make a diagnosis, and then I give them a treatment plan, which is 800 milligrams of ibuprofen, Q6 hours with food, whatever. Now, what do I do as an architect? Guess what? It's the same job. I go meet with a CEO or a client. Tell me about your business goals, your business pain points, your challenges. What do? I ask some questions. I make a diagnosis next. And then there's a plan. So doctor, interview a patient. Architect, interview a patient. Doctor, ask some questions. Architect, ask some questions. Doctor, examine the patient's systems. Look at the eyes, ears, nose, lungs. Architect, let me look at your systems. Let me look at your servers, your storage, your virtual machines, etc. Doctor, make a diagnosis. Architect, make a diagnosis. Doctor, make a plan, which is called a prescription. Architect, make a plan, which is called an architecture. Same job. You know what a lawyer does? They interview a client that's got a problem. They ask about the problem. They examine the available evidence. They make a diagnosis and make a plan. It's the same job. And that's the thing. The job is so much closer to what teachers do, what lawyers do, and doctors do than other technology careers. And that's the reason just in script people can't seem to get cloud architect jobs, because these are the skills for the job, and they're training the Python and the sysops and the maintenance and things. You've got a lot of the skills already, but coming from a teaching background, we have to do two things: polish you up, turn you into an executive, and the second side of it is tune your resume, and the third thing is we've got to make you so good and competent, which we do all the time, that here's the thing: people forget that you have lack of experience and they're willing to hire you. And it happens to our students every day. In case you're just joining us, I'm so excited to announce the Helping Our Heroes Get Hired program for military veterans. We have a cloud architect and a cloud engineering program that's there for get every veteran out of the military. We focus on veteran-specific leadership changes. We focus on emotional control and things for those of us that have been under high acuity, highly stressful environments for years. And we really teach the people, and everybody graduating this program, like all other programs, to be cloud hired, either as a cloud architect or cloud engineer, and we're super, super excited about it. So there's that. Chris, if you want to bring in the next question. Dashi Lee, is your AWS book good for the GCP exam? Any book would you recommend for the GC? What is the best book for BGP? Okay, so there's three questions there. Now, I will tell you this, Darrell Lee. I used our AWS book to pass the GCP exam, but I also bought the Cybex book. Now, Dashi Lee, I'm going to tell you this. I never go to Udemy. I never use those kind of videos because I want really good quality engineering from the source. So the source was the actual official book that Google contracted Cybex to do. And it is a great book. I recommend it to everybody. It's about $35, and it's the only thing you need for the Google exam, that and a practice test. The best book for BGP is Internet Routing Architectures from either Sam Halabi or Bassam Halabi. Bassam Halabi is his real name, his Arabic name, but sometimes he used to go by Sam Halabi. Really great BGP architecture book. So when I've read it over 75 times in my career, but also when you really want to learn a protocol, you can't just get it from books and training courses. You've got to go to the source. Now, Dashi Lee, the source is the Internet Engineering Task Force. So if you look up the BGP RFCs, or requests for comments, that's the actual specification. And let me tell you, people like me read that actual specification. Cisco reads that specification. Juniper Networks reads that specification. You know why they read the specification? That's how they actually make the protocols. So if you want to know the most in-depth of how everything works, what's inside of every message, every header, every packet, read the RFCs for BGP. So do a Google search, BGP RFC. You'll see some for multi-protocol BGP, which is really cool. You'll see some for BGP VPNs, which is cool. Basic BGP, BGP communities, route reflectors, all kinds of cool, exciting stuff. And then you'll really learn it. And let me tell you, I read all those specifications, requests for comments at least 10 times each. Great, great, great question. And truth be told, I recommend everybody read the specifications for everything. I do. Hi, Mike. I'm a QA manager with 13 years experience in the moment, and I would like to shift to cloud. Any suggestion on how to go about it? I could easily help you go about it, but you haven't told me the career that you desired. So without knowing what career, any advice I give you would be dangerous at best. So if you tell me whether you want a cloud architect career, a cloud engineering career, a DevOps career, a software developer career, a network engineer career on the cloud, a cloud network security architect, a cloud network security engineer, an IAM architect, a big data architect on the cloud. So these are all different careers on the cloud. And it's kind of like going to the airplane. Planes that go everywhere. So If I just took you to the airport and I called the airport cloud, this flight goes to Bangalore, this one goes to Delhi, this one goes to Lagos, this one goes to Nairobi, this one goes to Dubai, this one goes to New York, this one goes to Palm Beach. And without that, I don't know which plane to put you on. So I'll wait for you to respond in the chat box and then I'll answer your question. Okay, I see the question is you desire to do architecture. So here is what we need to do to train you from architecture. Now, QA, and I've gotten lots of people out of QA, but that's the biggest challenge of all the tech careers. And here's why. The QA people are the deepest tech people. They're running their XCOs, they're running their scripts, they're all day long, deep tech. Now, with that comes, generally speaking, some very good tech skills. But with that comes the impression that you are a techie. And the QA people are known to be the techiest of the techie. And they're all really, really smart and really good at breaking things. So lots of respect and love for QA people. Lots of respect. But when you are in QA, the brand of the QA is the deep, super techie. And when you're being a system designer and a half business executive, they're not looking for techie. They're looking for leader who also knows tech. So what we have to do for QA people is twofold. One is we have to look at your resume and your profile, and we need to really tune it. We got to keep some of the QA that you've been doing, and we got to pull out the leadership piece, the management piece, any executive things that you've done there. We've got to replace any testing that you've done with what the testing did for the company. So if you did a test of a new system or implemented a new testing methodology, did you implement a new testing methodology that decreased defects by 13%? That's what we need to know. Did you come up with a new testing protocol that sped QA testing by 32%, which increased the revenue by XYZ%? That's the stuff we have to tease out of your resume, because I know you've done it. You've done so many cool things in 25 years of QA, but we need to pull out what you did tech and then turn it into the business piece. Now from there, generally speaking in QA, you're not speaking at conferences with 5,000 people. You're not doing ROI modeling as a rule. You're not usually leading a team of 50 people. You're not selling. You're not presenting. You're not doing the kind of write-ups that we're talking about, executive writing, which is very different writing. So you will need to learn how to sell. You will need to learn how to present. You will, at a very different level, you will need to be CXO relevant, meaning knowing what to say to the CEO versus the CIO versus the CTO versus the CFO. You will need to be taught end-to-end system design, which means unless the QA you've been doing is for network and data center technologies, such as routers and switches and firewalls and servers and VPN concentrators and storage, you're going to need specific training in that. And we could easily train you in our cloud architecture development, or you could get similar training somewhere else. Meaning you'd have to buy leadership training, sales training, presentation training, emotional intelligence training, business acumen training, CXO relevance training, and architecture training, network training, and data center training. But that's what's bundled into our program, along with interview training and actually salary negotiation training. It's an extensive program. Not expensive, it's very cheap for what it is, but it's very, very extensive. So those are the kind of things that you need to learn for those careers. Now, we've got a great program that's, about $50,000 if we charge market rates, that we charge $700 or a single day's pay for, because we want to see you guys all get hired. And we don't want to be a financial burden, and our students are doing great. But those are really the things that you need to do. It's all about building that executive communication skill, the leadership, and the sales. So when your resume changes, in QA, you've got the most technical resume in all. Ran an Ixia script to do this, but in our world, it's how do we transform the customer? So we would teach you digital transformation. We would teach you sales, presentation skills, executive presence, communication skills, negotiation skills, sales skills, ROI modeling, etc. And then we'd teach you architecture skills, and we'd have to teach you the network and the data center, because what do we do as architects? We design an end-to-end system, taking the stuff for the network and the data center, the cloud. And what is the cloud? It's just another network and data center that's virtualized. So basically you're running somebody else's data center. And if you don't know the stuff in the data center, then you don't know how to take it to the cloud, which is another data center. So Those are the things that need to go from a hands-on tech career to an architecture career. And we would be honestly honored to train you, and I know you would do well in our program. But really, my goal is just for you to get that architect job if that's your goal. So get yourself cloud hired, and we'd be honored to help you. Now, if you guys have some questions, we've got a few more minutes this morning, so please ask them in the chat box. What should you do to improve your presentation skills when dealing with customers? Well, the first thing that I would do, and that's a great question, is I would give presentations every day. So when you're in class and we call on you, go present and explain the technology. Personally speaking, when I learned how to be an architect, this is going to sound crazy, I had to learn how to communicate to very large audiences and sell. So, I used to buy my wife a stuffed animal every time I did something stupid. So we got a lot of stuffed animals around the house. So I took one of my rooms and I'd put stuffed animals all around the room, and I would pretend they were an audience, and I would go and present in front of the stuffed animals constantly. And you know what? In the old days, I had to buy a big video camera to do it. But now we all have cell phones that can do videos. And I would watch myself record myself, watch myself record myself, watch myself record myself. And I would keep doing it, keep doing it, keep doing it. And I absolutely loved it. And at some point I was good. And then I took presentation training like in this course. But to be fair, I took $40,000 or $50,000 of presentation courses. So it's an incremental process. Abhishek, practice, practice, practice. But when you practice, record yourself and look at it. Would you want to listen to what you have to say? Is it crisp? Is it clear? Is it non-judgmental? Is it open-minded? Is it empathetic? Does it see something that's going to make somebody feel good? Those are the skills. And by doing that, you'll be great. So you want to practice, and while you're practicing, you want to see what you didn't do right, and then you want to correct it. So that perfect practice makes permanent. But you don't want to practice it wrong, because you'll reinforce the same thing. So watch yourself on a video. Ask your peers in the Cloud Architect Career Development Program. There's over 800 that'll be thrilled to work with you and do presentations back and forth with you. I have students every day. They go, hey, I want a presentation about you. I'm like, good. Go out there and start interviewing each other, presenting together, practicing. I always do that. And you know what? For people that really, really struggle, I have them join Toastmasters too and do even more presentations. So what's the solution to doing something you're uncomfortable with? Do a lot more of it. I'll give you a personal example, Abhishek. So in my life, I have always been I've been a very elitely trained warrior, an extreme martial artist, but we're all afraid of something. And in my career, I was afraid of three things: snakes, rats, and spiders. And it sounds totally crazy. Well, my wife decided that I couldn't kill spiders anymore, so she wanted me to start escorting them out of the house. So after she told me that, after about the first 50 spiders, I was no longer afraid of spiders. But let me tell you, snakes gave me the creeps, and rats gave me the creeps. So much so that I said to my wife, I have extreme allergies to cats, but if we ever get a rat, we're going to get a cat that day, and I don't care how bad my allergies are. Well, about a year ago, I wanted to make my wife happy. So I bought her a cat, because she always wanted a cat. And I go to the cat rescue. This kitten jumps in my lap, and I can't not take it home. I literally physically fall in love with the cat. So the cat comes home that first night. She sleeps in my chest. She's the sweetest thing. But the cat wanted to go outside. The cat went outside, and on the first day as a kitten, she brought me a little mouse. And I was not happy, so I had to escort the mouse out of the house. On the next day, she brought me something called a coral snake or lizard snake, which is a glass snake, which is a lizard and a snake combined. And I had to escort that out of the house. So now it's been a year of Cindy. And guess what? 3 times a week, I escort a rat out of the house. 3 times a week, I escort a lizard out of the house, a spider out of the house, a snake out of the house once a week. I'm no longer afraid of snakes, lizards, or rats. So, that's the key. In the Marine Corps, they have an obstacle course called the Crucible course. And what it is, it's designed to test your fear and your will. And if you can do this horribly mentally challenging thing, because, it's safe, nobody's going to die doing it if they really do it right safely, but it's terrifying. So by doing that, going through the course, people get over their fear, and it makes them better warriors. So if you're afraid of it, go present, join Toastmasters. It's a free organization where you can present, and get other people coach you. I did it, recommended it to so many people. Practice, practice, practice. Pat Patel, if you're one of our students and someone asks you to walk through a recent architecture that you designed, you'll have thousands of them to talk about because you'll be designing them in class. And if you are in our program, you'll be told what to put on your resume. Like if you're building an OpenStack cloud, you're designing an OpenStack cloud for enterprise-wide computing, for example. You might federate your OpenStack cloud with an Active Directory server for enterprise-wide domain authentication. And these would be the kind of things that businesses would do. So there's that. So we give in our 500-hour Cloud Architect Career Development Program the skills and the architectures to talk about the architectures they've designed. Some will be for global retailers, some will be for healthcare organizations, some will be for social media companies, some will be for global banks, some will be for content creation companies like a Netflix of the future, all of that stuff. So those are the kind of things that we really talk about, and our students design all of these things. Architectures with 40,000 remote locations, architectures with complicated networking, architectures with complicated supply chains. So that's what we do so that our students can actually walk them through. Now, here's the thing. It's about how you communicate it. Now, Pat Patel, I'm going to tell you this right now. On a Cloud Architect interview, they're going to make you give a presentation. And it's usually a PowerPoint presentation that you prepared ahead of time. And that's kind of the interview. And the basic ones, the precursor ones, they're going to ask you something basic like you're describing. But when it comes to the point where they're ready to hire you, there will be a real interview. And that real interview will be a multi-hour presentation that you have to make for all of these jobs. And you have to have an answer ready. Now, I'll tell you this. When it comes to the interviews and these interview architectures, they are extremely, extremely basic. I mean, so basic that when my students actually get one of these things for these senior cloud architect jobs from the cloud provider, they actually laugh. They're like, Mike, you should have seen it. We learned more on the first day of your class than this whole thing for the senior cloud architect position. They're like, oh my God, I can't believe it. So Pat Patel, here's the thing. When you're doing architecture work, it's all about design. So you'll need to talk about, the BGP and the connections to the cloud. Are they direct connections? Are they VPLS connections? Are they Ethernet OpenPL connections? Are they IPsec tunnels? Are they software-defined network? What's the traffic pattern look like? And you will have to describe your firewall strategy. Maybe you've got a network load balancer between two virtual firewalls, and maybe you've opted for another network load balancer before some IDS, IPS systems. And then you'll have like a network access control list and a security group, and what you'll do on the host where you'll disable unnecessary services, add an additional host-based firewall, anti-malware protection, et cetera, et cetera. You'll be walking through that. You'll have to walk through the demilitarized zone and what you're putting in the demilitarized zone and why. You will have to walk through the way the traffic does. You will have to walk through what the architecture does for the business. How does this architecture increase sales? How does this architecture save the company money? You'll have to be talking about all that. And that's what you need to put on there. And that's not something you're going to enter on your resume. On your resume, you're going to talk about design and transformation for your customers. So hope I answered your question there. And I am more than happy to go into further depth on that if you desire. I understand we have to talk to clients, but it will be on behalf of the organization we work for or our own personal business. Well, if you work for AWS, you're going to be doing it on behalf of Azure. If you do it for AWS, you'll do it for AWS. If you work for Azure, you'll be doing it for Azure. If you're working at Verizon and their cloud, which is both reselling the AWS cloud and, of course, the really good OpenStack cloud that they have, guess what? You're going to be talking on behalf of the organization you work for. So it's always going to be the organization you work for. But, and here's the big but, if you don't talk to clients on your own and develop both personal and professional relationships with them, your career will be seriously limited, and here's why. So I've been an architect forever. Now, during my 25-year architecture career, I've consulted to thousands of CEOs, thousands of chief technology officers, thousands of chief information officers, thousands of customers, right? So now I have personal relationships. So I want a new job. Hey, Jeff. Yeah, it's Mikey over here. I'm kind of bored. I need a cloud architect job. Yeah, okay, thanks. And because I have those contacts, that's about how long it takes for me to get a job. So, we're doing it at work because we have to. We can't get the requirements without it. But when you develop those personal communication skills and you're solid and you've got the relationships with people, with executives, your next job and your next $100,000 promotion is a phone call away. So that's how important it is to have these connections. So, one of the things we do in our training programs, all of them, cloud architect, cloud engineer, is we do a lot of brand building for our students. So they have the perfect brand so that employers run to them. It's really funny. Sometimes we co-author papers with the student if they have a good one and they have to shut off their phone because they get too many job offers in the same day. But we can't always do that. But when can we do that, for example? So it's all about building brand. We did a LinkedIn brand building class a couple months ago. And as soon as we did that, half of the students said they were bombarded with asks from recruiters. They couldn't even figure out how to deal with the 15 to 20 offers that we're getting per day of interviews. So it's about packaging. It's about branding. So I like to say this. I have a Mac and I've got a Threadripper system. And let me tell you, my Threadripper system is about 1 billion times better than my Mac. But you know what? My Mac costs more. You know why my Mac costs more at half the performance? Because Apple's got the brand. And it's light and cute and fun and people love the brand. And the brand is everything. You build the best cloud engineer brand or the best cloud architect brand, the world comes to you and you're worth so much. So I would talk to clients for the business, but also for yourself too. I like having a big network. There's an expression in the business world that says your network is your net worth, and truth be told, it's very real. That it's not just the number of people in your network. That's where everybody gets it wrong. You can have 1,000,001 people in your network that don't know you. That's waste. But if you have people in your network that know you and like you and are willing to help you, then you have the right brand, and that's when you're maximally successful. So hope I answered your question, and please feel free to ask more. And before we get to the next one, my team has decided to extend our special 30% anniversary sale through the weekend. So please, now's your chance to get cloud hired. Use the coupon code GoCloud1. And this applies for our cloud architect program, our cloud engineering program, our tech interview mastery program, where if you're all ready to go and you need interview support to get hired, that's your key. And if you've been working in tech and you're trying to accelerate your career or move up into management or move up into bigger roles, that tech interview accelerator, the tech career accelerator program will really help you. So all of our programs on sale for 30% off for a few more days, except for the military programs. Kickoff launch at 50% off. Tobias. Hi, Mike. What's the beta? Reach out to new recruiters and which questions are important to ask in good relationship building. Okay, so Tobias, a couple of things. Last week, we actually made a video, and the video shows you how to find a good recruiter. So I'd like you to watch that, and Chris from my team is going to do that. Now, when you reach out to recruiters, you're going to find out real quickly. Here's the difference between a good recruiter and a bad recruiter. I'll use Christina Marino, as I've worked with her for 25 years. She works at IT Excel in New York. She's gotten me 3 of my 5 jobs that I've ever interviewed for, and she's a top-notch recruiter. So if I call Christina and I say, Christina, I'm Mike Gibbs and I want to be a cloud architect, or I'm looking for a cloud architect job, she's going to talk to me first. She's going to say, tell me about your career, Mike. And I'm going to say, well, about 25 years ago, I joined WorldCom as a senior network engineer, and I was the lead architect within 6 months. Then I went to Night Securities as an architect, where you got me a job there. Then after that, I worked at Comcast as a principal architect, and then I left Comcast to go to Riverstone Networks, where I was an architect there too, a principal architect. And then I joined Cisco, and I was lead architect for Vertical. And she'd say, Mike, that sounds great. And then she'd say, send me your resume. Now, my resume is rock solid, Tobias. But guess what? If it wasn't, Christina would call me back and she'd say, Mike, your background experience is awesome, but your resume needs these fixes before I can help you. Now, when you get told your resume needs these fixes, Tobias, then you know, ding, 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 you got a real recruiter. Now, next with a real recruiter, after you speak to them, they're going to send you some job descriptions. Now, here's the thing, Tobias. If it's a real job description, like a real one, guess what? You're going to know if the recruiter is connected to the hiring manager. So real architect descriptions talk about business acumen, leadership skills, emotional intelligence, design, present, CXO, FaceTime, et cetera, et cetera. And that's what you're going to see. Now, guess what? All architect jobs are that. Now, every once in a while, you're going to see these kitchen sink job descriptions, which are written by HR and not the hiring manager. 50 Olympic gold medals, please. 20 years as a software developer, 20 years as a network engineer, 20 years as a database engineer, 20 years as a Kubernetes engineer, 20 years as an airplane pilot, 25 years as a veterinarian. And yes, we're going to pay you $30,000 a year. So these are the stupid job descriptions. And when you see a job description that's accurate from a recruiter, you know that recruiter's plugged in. And when you go to a recruiter that's not giving you that information, you know that recruiter is just cutting and pasting job descriptions. And most likely, they don't even have any real jobs anyway. They're just collecting resumes for later. So Tobias, anytime you see from a recruiter a job description that doesn't make sense, if I call Christina Marino or Steve Arakrillian or one of those folks at IT Excel, which I think is one of the best recruiting firms I've ever met and used many times, and that's why I keep mentioning their name. But if you do that, and they get handed an HR job description, the first thing they do is to call the hiring manager and say, we know this is not what you want. What would you like? And then they can tell you. Now, a good recruiter, Tobias, will prepare you for the interview. If you're interviewing with me, for example, Tobias, and you spoke to Christina, she would say, when you interview with Mike, make sure you don't bluff. Mike will kick you out of the office the second you bluff. So be honest with him. Mike's an expert radar detector, and he doesn't trust. And if he can't trust you, he won't hire you. Now, Mike really cares about the network, so make sure you're brushed up on the network. And Mike really cares about this, so make sure you're there. A good recruiter will even prep you for the role. And here's the best part of a really good recruiter, Tobias, and this is why you've got to call them and speak to them. I know you, Tobias, you're a great cloud architect. So if I called Christina Marino, and I do it all the time, and I say, I need a great cloud architect, I need an emotionally intelligent individual, I need someone that's smart, someone that knows networking and data centers, and someone that I can trust. And she calls me back later and she says, Mike, I've got this guy Tobias for you in the Australia region, New Zealand region. And he's smart, he's emotionally intelligent, he's likable, he's 100% trustworthy, and he's really solid on the network. That recruiter that I just trust biased me to like you, Tobias. So that's really the key. The recruiter needs to be there. So, I send connection requests with recruiters just periodically because I like having more in my network, and they respond. But the key is when they respond, what are they asking you for? Are you speaking to them on the phone? If all they say is send me your resume, they're not a recruiter you can work with. You need to talk to them and feel them. So I reach out to recruiters all the time, but Tobias, if we really tune your LinkedIn profile perfectly, I don't think you're going to need to reach out to recruiters. They're going to reach out to you. But I just do send connection requests to them periodically. And that way I do it because they always accept it. And then I get to see the jobs they publish. And when there is something there that's good, I can reach out to them. So if you have some questions, please ask them. Ashish Sharma, can you talk about cloud architect and cloud engineering? Which skills are needed for both? Absolutely, because they are completely different careers. And I'll tell you the differences in the way we teach them too, because they're based on different careers. As a cloud architect, you need end-to-end system design skills, which means network and data center skills. You need presentation skills, you need sales skills, you need business acumen skills, you need to be able to build a business case or an ROI model for technology. As an architect, you need to be able to present in multi-thousand person audience. As an architect, you need to write constantly. You'll be publishing white papers in magazines, journals, etc. So you're going to need that level of capability as the architect. As the architect, you are 100% system designer, so it's all about designing systems. So Ashish, the architect is a non-hands-on position that is mostly an executive that knows how to use technology to solve customer business problems. So this job is a design job, a presentation job, a sales job, a leader job, etc. Now, cloud engineers are the people that build the designs that the cloud architects design. So cloud engineering skills are different. The cloud architect is a leader, an executive, a designer. The cloud engineer is a builder. So a cloud engineer is hands-on constantly, hands-on with the command line interface, hands-on with the management console, playing with the APIs, etc. A cloud engineer must know how to code, where an architect doesn't code. A cloud engineer will be dealing with Linux and configuration administration, so a cloud engineer needs that where an architect doesn't. A cloud engineer will be deploying infrastructure as code, so a cloud engineer needs to know tools like Terraform. A cloud engineer will be writing bash scripts and shell scripts in Linux, and guess what? They need that, but a cloud architect will not. So when it really comes down to it, one is the skills of a systems designer, and one of the skills of the system builder. And truth be told, it's the perfect marriage. When I was an engineer, I would build the designs that the architects design. And as an architect, I design it, and then I hand it over to the engineers. So engineers need hands-on technical skills, and darn good ones. And architects need design skills. Exactly opposite skill set. Both great careers. Hi, Mike. Which type of martial art do you like the best and why? And what benefits does it bring for you? So, Chow, I've done 25 years of martial arts, and I'll tell you which ones I like. Now, personally, my particular favorite is Krav Maga, which is the Israeli style of the IDF. And the reason I like Krav Maga is as follows. I've studied martial arts for 20 years, but this is practical, hands-on, and it's the same way I like to train. It's effective, quick. So, what you can learn in 12 weeks of Krav Maga training typically would take you about 3 to 5 years in Taekwondo or something like that to be equally defensive. So I've done years and years of Taekwondo, Tal, which I really love. And I've also done a lot of Shotokan, which is Japanese. And let me tell you, if there's anything that ever emotionally connected with me, it was Shotokan karate, because it was a moving meditation. It was about the mind, the body, the spirit. And Chow, I loved it. But again, it took me many years to learn. Krav Maga, the Israeli style, it's like, okay, boom. And it's simple, it's fast, it's not pretty, but it's that. But why do I like martial arts? Well, martial arts connect the mind and the body, so it can be meditative. Martial arts have a breathing element. Martial arts teach you a different way of thinking. You got something, whoa, you don't even realize, oh, okay, boom, boom. You got stuff coming at you from multiple angles. And by doing that, I learned how to better react. And by studying martial arts, you know what else I learned? I also learned how to come up with simple solutions to a problem. See, in the Japanese world of Shotokan, it was complicated. But in the Israeli world of Krav Maga, it basically taught me how to take a complicated problem and develop the quickest solution that works. And it's great in cases of emergencies. It's great in customer problems. So I'd say Krav Maga is my favorite, but I've also done a lot of Tai Chi, which is actually a very lethal martial art and a very scary martial art. Even people think it's not. It has the term is steel wrapped in cotton. But I'd say mentally, I like Shotokan karate the best, but physically, Krav Maga is mine because it's more effective in most situations. Cornelia Nees, saying networking is key to cloud architecture. Would I say CCNP is sufficient or overkill? Well, here's what I would say. The knowledge in the CCNP isn't quite enough. The certification may not be needed. So when I say this, here's what I'm talking about, Cornelius. The BGP that's needed for direct connections in Cloud Hub to be good at it is really CCIE level BGP. CCIE level, not CCNP level. Now, the IP addressing that should be done for an end-to-end cloud architecture is CCIE level and not CCNP level things. Now, all the depth that the CCNP goes into OSPF and EIGRP and intermediate systems is probably more than the average cloud architect needs. So, in our training, we're pretty particular. Here's your lots of BGP. Here's most of what you need to know in a CCNA. So, if you had to get a certification to show it, I'd probably say the CCNP, either the data center one or the design one, would be the right one because it's so important. But, when we're dealing with this, it's really the knowledge. So, I'd say my intro to networking was the Cisco Certified Internet Expert, and my number is 7417. I would say that until I was a CCIE, I didn't really get to learn networking, and here's why. I was doing small projects, and after I was a CCIE, which took me about 6 months from the time I started networking, that's when people trusted me enough to put me on the bigger projects where I learned how much I didn't know. And then I worked hard all day, every day, to learn those magical skills. And that's how I built my career. So I'd say the CCIE for me was an intro to networking. But remember, I'm kind of a perfectionist. And that's why in our training, we're so perfect when getting our students, really capable and really, really there. So I would say the CCNP is sufficient for most. Just make sure you understand BGP. I would say for many people, the CCNA is enough as long as they know BGP very well. Just make sure you've got the skills. So what I would say is it's based upon your experience. If you've got a lot of experience, the certifications become less relevant. If you've got no experience, the certifications help make up gaps for the resume. So if this is your first cloud architect job, I'd get the CCNP if you've never worked in tech before. But if you've been working in tech, maybe doing some networking, maybe doing some data center stuff, then the CCNA is going to be more than enough. It's about building the illusion of competency with certifications. Certifications don't build competency. Certifications build the illusion of competency, which gets us the job interview. Professional development, education, and training, that gives you the competency. Chris, you can go to the next one. Mike, what are the critical situations that you ever face in architecture and the challenges resolved and the client says you made our day? Oh, Vikas, it's been so many things over the years. I've designed architectures which have saved companies hundreds of millions of dollars a year, and they're thrilled about that. I've come in and people wanted to do voice, data, and video, and they'd messed around with, jack of all trades and no architects, and it didn't work for a year or two. And I went in there in a day and fixed things. For example, in Dubai, a company had bought millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars of technology for IP video, IPTV, and it didn't work. And some of the best engineers in the world had been trying to fix it, and they were really smart people. And I flew there to try and figure it out. While I was there, I don't know how I found the solution, but I did. And in a matter of 15 minutes, it was fixed, and I was a hero. I was hanging out at the Burj Al Arab, and the customer actually bought me a stay at the Burj Al Arab, and I was living life and enjoying it and loving it there. They were so grateful. So there was that. So there was that. There were lots of people that had network architectures that were designed by jack of all trades, and everything broke and didn't work. So I got to tell you, guess what? I've made a lot of people's days by walking into their systems and doing it. But, I haven't had many customers that weren't overly excited over the years because I don't look at the tech. The tech to me is a tool. And what I mean by that is, if I buy a jacket, it's because I'm cold. It's solving a problem. So, those are kind of the biggest issues that I've actually seen. And so, yeah, well, pretty much all the time. But usually it's related to outages. Most problems I've seen in the last 25 to 30 years are what happens when a jack of all trades tried to do IP networking and IP addressing, and basically the foundation is wrong. And if the foundation for the house isn't right, everything falls apart. Chris, you can go to the next one. Sorry, you're new here. Would you recommend the CCNA before the CCNP? You're new to IT and help desk? It depends on how easy you can study. If you can pass the CCI exam and learn it all, great. If you can't, do the CCNA first and then the CCNP. Most people need to do the CCNA first. Chris, you can go to the next one. How would you pivot into working as a consultant, as a solution architect? Zim Kane IT, there is no pivot. A solution architect is a consultant. All they do is go to the customer, ask about their business, consult on their business, and design a solution to improve their business. That is a consultant. There's no changes. Chris, I don't know how many more we can do, but I might be able to do one or two more. What is the biggest mistake when working as a cloud architect? Well, Zim Kane IT, I'll tell you what, it was about 20 some years ago, and here was the biggest mistake. I had just gone from engineering to architecture, and I thought you could do both. And I'm going to tell you, you can't do both. Anytime you get a technical architect that does engineering and architecture at the same time, it is a complete and total disaster. And here's why. Zim Kane IT, tonight, go out there and look at the sky. Look at the stars, the Big Dipper, the Little Dipper, the moon. Look at it all. It's going to be beautiful. And then take it out a telescope and look at the moon. Zoom in on the moon, and you know what you're not going to see? any part of the sky. So Zimcan IT, when I first became an architect, I'd been a really great engineer first, and I thought I could do both. And many new architects try to make this mistake. They think they can fly the airplane and keep the patients in their seat at the same time. Or the doctor can be in the office prescribing medicine and caring for the patients in the hospital at the same time. No. So in the beginning of my career, I tried to design it and build it. And you know what happened? Or design it and troubleshoot it. And when I was busy focusing on building or troubleshooting, the world was melting down because I couldn't see it. I was focused hands-on. So the biggest problem I've ever seen in architecture, and it's so common, is an architect tries to be an engineer. And when an architect tries to be an engineer, they miss the big picture, they lose their focus, and the architecture fails, the customer's bad, the design doesn't work, and then you need to call somebody like me in to fix it. So someone that only does architecture, someone that doesn't try to spread my focus. So that's the biggest mistake I've ever made. I made it once about 25 years ago, and we'll never make it again. Okay, this is the last question I would do. Would it be appropriate to ask a data center if you can show up on a Saturday to show them how they do their job? Well, I want you to think about this. You've got a data center. Now, an ideal data center would be a building that's got Navy SEAL snipers on the roof to make sure you can't get in, that has 1 million guards making sure you can't get in, because once you can walk into a data center, you can plug something in and you can hack it. So, Michael, a good data center would not let you in at all, because just being in the data center, you could cause problems. So keep that in the back of your mind. So the security of your data center is determining what you need. So there's that. By the way, Dr. Leo, I'm going to end it on this. 99% of all architect jobs are pre-sales. They're all pre-sales. And when they're not, they're cleaning up what the pre-sales people made. So architect jobs are pre-sales. The pre-sales jobs are the best job. They pay far more. They offer more career potential. And architect jobs are pre-sales jobs. Why? They're consulting jobs. We ask our customers what the problems with their business. We solve their problems with the business, and then we sell them solutions. So all architect jobs, for the most part, are pre-sales jobs. So I hope you've had a great time. This is Michael Gibbs. I'm the founder and CEO of Go Cloud Careers and Go Cloud Architects. Today we had a cloud architect question and answer session, a cloud engineer question and answer session. So I want you to know how to get your first cloud job. So hope you had a great time today. Please join me at noon on our 4th day of the AWS Certified Solution Architect Associate Bootcamp. Hope you had a great time with our video this morning where we spoke to Nick, a real rock-solid, world-class security engineer. And don't forget, military program, brand new lunch today, half off until it's ready to go. And guess what? 30% off of all our products and for the next throughout the weekend. So get yourselves cloud hired. Look forward to seeing you at noon. Take care, everyone.